Okay, can you hear me? Okay, so this is anybody down? Sounds loud. All right. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm excited to be here and present my research with you. My name is Courtney Martin. I am a senior biology major here at the University of Kentucky. My mentor is Dr. Nathan Vanderford in the Department of Toxicology and Cancer Biology. Cancer is the second leading cause of death in the U.S. In America, we experience 1.8 million new cases and over 600,000 cancer deaths each year. Among the entire nation, Kentucky ranks first in cancer incident and mortality, with the greatest burden of the disease being found in the Appalachian region of the state. For example, lung cancer death rates are almost double that of the national average. In addition, Appalachians are 8% more likely to die from a preventable or a screenable malignancy. These disparities necessitate further investigation and action. The purpose of our research was to determine the reason for these high rates of cancer in Appalachia through individual perspectives. To do so, we recruited individuals from within the community with cancer-related experience. Participants included those working in cancer-related fields, oncology professionals, as well as those with cancer-related experience. We conducted oral history interviews at the Louis B. Nunn Center at the University of Kentucky pre-COVID. Unfortunately, our interviews were halted due to the pandemic. Each participant sat for an individual, semi-structured interview, averaging 2 to 3 hours in length. These interviews were analyzed using qualitative content analysis and was categorized into themes, subthemes, and subtopics, respectively. So some of the themes that emerged during our analysis can be seen in Figure 3, our results section. And that includes lack of access, distrust, including distrust for healthcare providers, as well as educational barriers. Appalachia, Kentucky is known for high levels of poverty. As such, lack of infrastructure means limited local healthcare facilities, making care inaccessible to many. Patients who are able to commute find themselves traveling 2 to 3 hours to the nearest local facility to obtain care. Additionally, lack of healthcare literacy or the understanding of health information is evident among Appalachians. Many physicians practicing in Appalachia often are not from the region, and this causes a deep distrust and contributes to the many fears Appalachians have regarding healthcare providers. Oftentimes, Appalachians simply do not trust outsiders. They feel as though they'll be misunderstood by those with different ways of life. This creates a barrier when engaging with the healthcare system. So, what can we do with this information, and what does it mean? Increasing the access by way of utilizing telemedicine and telehealth could help bridge the gaps in accessibility to care. Except that Appalachia, Kentucky is an internet and technology desert, so this issue would also have to be addressed. Furthermore, health literacy needs to be improved among Appalachians. This has shown to increase health outcomes, including in cancer, by, for example, changing individuals' behaviors, such as those that give rise to high rates of cancer. Thank you very much. My name is Courtney Martin. I'm happy to take any questions you all have.
I will jump in right away. Thank you so much. This is really fantastic and much needed research, and I really appreciate what you and your whole team are doing. You mentioned that you recruited volunteers, not only presumably people who had a personal or family experience with cancer, but also some healthcare providers, isn't that right? And
yes,
other
oncologists.
People. Right. Can I ask you, it's such a pity that that this kind of research had to be discontinued because of COVID. But can I ask you how many people have been interviewed, and do you have a large team of people? 2 to 3 hour-long interviews, that's an awful lot for, you know, a small team of people to take care of.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, given the current pandemic, that was one of our limitations. We did end up only having 5 participants, which of course we wanted to do on a much larger scale. However, I will say that if we had got to do more interviews, I truly believe that it would have just further supported not only our findings, but the findings other literature shows, which supports our results. So again, although it was a limitation, that just gives us a drive for future studies to do this on a larger scale. Thank you for that.
Excuse me, I just want to add also, I think it's just fabulous that you're partnering with the Louis B. Nunn Oral History Center so that these interviews are now kept in a database for future research of all different kinds. What would you do next if you had $1 million NSF grant to continue this research?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's an excellent question. So ultimately, we would want to do it on a larger scale. But more specifically, what I would like to see happen is that we actually implement some of these solutions, whether that's cancer education in schools or that is increasing transportation services, and follow that research and investigate the impact over time. Thank you for that question.
Well, thank you as well, Courtney. First, it's interesting to me. I confess only in my 4th year here, but having spent the last 11 years in Pennsylvania, you know, Appalachia, I've been sort of surprised. There seems kind of a possessiveness in Kentucky a little bit, that Appalachia is Kentucky. But in fact, Appalachia goes all the way up through New York State. I know it's a little bit afield from what you've presented here, but I'm curious. We see that dark blue all the way up. Do you think it is all related, presumably to coal and to other things of the nature of Appalachia itself, not just the state locations?
Yeah, certainly. I definitely think that it is a region-specific issue. So, for example, another related study, not in Kentucky, it was just in another Appalachian state, what they wanted to do was investigate the distance a patient lived from the nearest healthcare facility and determine what stage their cancer was diagnosed in relationship to that. That study found that the further away someone lived from the nearest facility, the later the stage in which their cancer was diagnosed. And that's very unfortunate that this lack of access is not only giving rise to cancer incident, but cancer mortality. And again, I definitely think it's region specific. What we are seeing here in Kentucky is supported by other Appalachian states, such as that study. Thank you for that question.
You're welcome. Now, and did you say you're biology major?
Yes.
So, why did you decide to take this particular avenue in terms of your research opportunity as opposed to, say, bench work?
Absolutely. So as an Appalachian native myself, it is so dear to my heart to be able to impact my community. I've had family members and friends diagnosed with cancer, and I want to ultimately become a physician and go back to my hometown and practice, and being able to better understand the problems being faced by my community and the potential solutions and how I could potentially improve the lives and overall well-being of the place I call home is so rewarding, and I think I couldn't have found anything better that aligned with what I want to do. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Courtney.
Thank you. Nice, very nice presentation, and you know, certainly resonates in our community. And I think that, you know, you've identified some important problems. You've proposed solutions. Have you given thought to, again, this is longer term, but let's say you know, after you get your second $1 million grant or $10 million grant, to how might you test one of these interventions? So have you thought about that? So you mentioned, you know, transportation access or different educational opportunities. Have you thought about how you would test some of those interventions, and what would be the basis for forming those up?
Certainly, that's an excellent question. So as mentioned, one of the problems being faced in the community is distrust. Appalachians are accent conscious, dialect conscious. They just have this fear of being misunderstood. So I would certainly like to see that money go towards addressing the issue of distrust. And one way that we could do that is to create incentive programs for students to recruit Appalachian students to universities and to healthcare programs. As aforementioned in the presentation, Appalachia, Kentucky experiences high levels of poverty. It homes some of the poorest counties in America. And that can be a barrier when wanting to go to college and pursue these advanced degrees, such as becoming a provider. So I would certainly like to see that go towards incentive programs, both to recruit physicians to come back and practice in Appalachia, but to also recruit Appalachian students to come and be a part of these health programs and make that accessible in terms of finances. Thank you. That's a great question. Thank you all for having me.